Okay, so let's talk about something pretty incredible. Imagine you could heal your brain just by stepping into a different world. Today we're diving into how virtual reality is becoming a game changer and a real source of hope for stroke survivors.
Let's kick things off with a single number, 80%. And believe me, this number is huge. It represents a daily, life-altering struggle for millions of people around the world.
So what is that 80%? Well, that's the number of stroke survivors who have trouble with their arms or hands. Think about it for a second. Simple things we all take for granted, like buttoning a shirt or just picking up a fork, they suddenly become this massive challenge. That's the real human side of this, and it's why finding better ways to help is so critical.
All right, so that brings us to our first section. We're going to look at what the road to recovery has traditionally been like, and, some of the major roadblocks patients hit.
For the longest time, physical therapy has been, well, it's been a grind. We're talking about endless, repetitive exercises. And yeah, they can definitely help, but man, it's frustrating. It can feel like you're not making progress, and it's easy to see why people get discouraged and maybe don't stick with it.
And this quote from the journal PLOS One just hits the nail on the head. It's not just about not being able to move your arm. It's about losing your independence. It's about having to rely on someone else for, the most basic, everyday things.
But what if there was a better way? What if rehab could actually be engaging, maybe even fun? And that right there is where virtual reality steps onto the scene.
And we're not just talking about gaming here. This is serious stuff. Even the FDA recognizes that VR has the potential to totally change healthcare. It's about creating these custom-built, immersive worlds designed specifically for healing and tailored to exactly what a patient needs.
So let's break down the difference. On one side, you've got traditional therapy. It's all about that physical repetition, right? But on the other, you have VR, and it does something completely different. It uses this amazing body illusion to basically trick your brain. It shows you a virtual version of your arm moving perfectly, and your brain goes, hey, I can do that, and starts rewiring itself.
This is the secret sauce. It's all about something called neuroplasticity. That's just a fancy term for the brain's amazing ability to change and form new pathways. If you've ever heard of mirror box therapy, where a mirror fools the brain, well, VR is like that on steroids. You're not just seeing it, you're in it. You feel like you're the one making those perfect movements.
Okay, so how does this actually work? How does a headset and some tech lead to real-world recovery? Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
All right, so there's actually a patent that lays it all out pretty clearly. Step 1, sensors track your real arm movement, even if it's limited. Step 2, the system creates a virtual arm that mimics you. Then, and this is the cool part, a virtual doctor shows you the perfect movement. And finally, the system maps that perfect movement onto your virtual arm, so you see yourself doing it flawlessly. That's instant, powerful feedback.
And inside this VR world, therapy stops feeling like therapy. It feels like a game. You're not just doing reps, you're drawing in the air, you're stacking blocks, you're hitting targets. And the whole time, the software is tracking everything, gathering all this super useful data for the therapists. This all sounds amazing, right? But here's the big question, the one that really matters. Does it actually work? Let's see if the science backs it up. So let's get right down to it. Is VR therapy really more effective than the old school methods? We need to cut through the hype and look at the actual evidence. So to figure this out, researchers use a specific test. It's called the Fugl-Meyer Assessment, or FMA for short. You can think of it as the gold standard, the universal measuring stick for motor recovery after a stroke. It makes sure everyone is playing by the same rules and comparing apples to apples.
And the data? Wow, we're talking about a massive review here. 55 different clinical trials, thousands of patients. And the results are crystal clear. Patients using VR therapy had way better recovery, much higher FMA scores than those who just did conventional therapy. It's a clear win for VR.
The research even gives us a kind of best practices guide. It seems like the sweet spot is longer therapy interventions. We're talking more than 6 weeks, and starting as early as possible, ideally within 6 months of the stroke. That's when the brain is most ready to learn and adapt.
So, with all this promising data, the next logical step is taking this tech out of the lab and putting it where it's needed most, in people's homes. And the FDA has chimed in, and they've got a pretty balanced take. The pros? They're huge. Better access to care, patients can take more control of their own rehab. But there are also real-world risks to think about too. Things like data privacy, which is always a big one, and something called cybersickness, which is basically just motion sickness from being in VR. Plus, potential neck strain from the headset.
But this isn't just theory anymore. It's happening right now. You've got companies like XRHealth who are already doing this. They'll literally ship a VR headset right to your door, connect you with a therapist over the internet, and they even deal with the insurance companies. I mean, this is healthcare moving into the 21st century.
So what's next? Where do we go from here with this amazing blend of tech and neuroscience? Well, believe it or not, the vision is getting even bigger.
The big thinkers in this space are already looking at the next frontier. As the CEO of XRHealth, Eran Orr, points out, we just don't have enough human therapists to go around. It's a global problem. So, the ultimate dream? Using artificial intelligence to build a virtual clinician.
Which brings us to a final, pretty wild thought. Think about it. What if your next physical therapist wasn't a person you meet in an office, but an AI-powered virtual guide, available anytime, day or night, right in your own living room? It seems like we're on the brink of a massive shift in how we think about healing. The future of recovery is coming, and it's going to be virtual.